Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you are all having an incredible day. To start things off, I thought I'd start something off with some pretty nice news. The CEO of blockchain and crypto hedge fund known as Pantera says Bitcoin's past trend lines indicate the leading cryptocurrency is likely to hit $42,000 this year, followed by $356,000 a couple of years later. In the latest episode of the Unchained podcast hosted by Laura Shin, Dan Moorhead said, and I do quote, "One perspective would be to graph the price of Bitcoin logarithmically to take away the crazy exponential growth, and it's typically a pretty consistent line, and there's a few bubbles. In 2013, obviously, Bitcoin was up 83 times year to year, and then at the end of 2017, it was also a bubble. It deflated so much that at the beginning of this year, when we were at the trough of the crypto winter, we graphed what it would be like if Bitcoin spent the next 12 months getting back to its trend line, then from there out just stayed at that trend, and its trend has been growing at 235% compound annual growth rate. There are very few other things in the world of finance that will get you 235% compounded annual growth. Almost impossible to find, everyone. At the time, he said, Bitcoin was $3,000 or $4,000. That put Bitcoin at $42,000 at the end of 2019, which I know sounds crazy, but essentially we're halfway back there. It's right on the trend line, and I think it's a good shot that by the end of the year, we hit that. He said, and if you just extrapolate that line out for another year, it's $122,000 per Bitcoin, and in one more year after that, $356,000 US. And those numbers sound crazy, but our research piece we wrote on Bitcoin, we predicted it would go to 5,000. And when it was a couple $100, everyone thought that was totally nuts. But these numbers in 2 or 3 years, people will go back and look and say, oh yeah, that makes sense. What's really interesting about that as well is I got into the cryptocurrency space. It had to be 2013. Yeah, it was definitely 2000. It definitely wasn't 2014. And I remember reading articles from around 2010, maybe the beginning of 2011, and people were like, yeah, Bitcoin just hit $5. It's definitely a bubble. And other people like having like graphs and charts, because people were trying to chart out exactly how this would go. What's the most fascinating thing that we've seen from the wider cryptocurrency space and also from Bitcoin in general is that as people have predicted where the price is going to go, it's usually kind of outperformed that, if that kind of makes any sense. A lot of people were even saying that during 2017, the Bitcoin price would probably hit around 8,000 to 9,000. And this is where the crazy predictions that this year we could hit 100,000. But what ends up happening is when we do actually hit the marks that other people have set, it usually is such an insanely high number that other people kind of lose their mind. Everyone starts throwing as much money into the cryptocurrency space as possible. And this is why we usually end up, typically, having these situations where it's expected that by the end of the year, Bitcoin could hit 42,000. We end up rushing up so much that the next year following, we end up having a huge depression, some type of a bear market. I think 2018 was one of the most prolonged bear markets that we've had in a very long time. So it's very interesting to see that people for years, obviously, have been trying to figure out exactly where the price is going to go. This is why if you even talk about, if 2020 their research is showing a $122,000 Bitcoin, and then 2021 is 356,000. When you get people talking about over the next 10 years, this is why this is very important if you are here for the long term, to pay attention to exactly where all these trends are going, because a lot of these trends also just follow the amount of people who are in the cryptocurrency space now, and the like small trickles of people slowly getting inside, slowly buying up more portions of it, and the reward getting cut in half. And this is kind of where we get these normal numbers, but this is just the normal trend. If the trend goes completely insane, or if we have more people getting inside, or other things end up launching that we aren't expecting that cause more hype and more energy to get into the cryptocurrency space, if we end up having more rich people behind the scenes who are like, you know what? Prices are going up too fast, put another 500,000 inside of that to buy it more. It creates an even smaller supply. We have the reward getting cut in half. The reward is getting cut in half next year. It's also getting cut in half in 2024 and then 2028. So if price metrics are showing us potentially, this isn't the first time that we've heard numbers like this either. There's usually people who are actually a bit more optimistic about the price than even these people are. So if by 2021 they're showing a $356,000 Bitcoin, imagine when Bitcoin's price gets cut in half in 2024 and then 2028, and then just imagine it's insane. Like, this is where we get those $10 million Bitcoin prices from. And I know a lot of people are rolling their eyes or crossing their arms and they're like, that's never going to happen. There was no point in 2013 or even before that, when other people were in the cryptocurrency space, if you told them that Bitcoin was going to hit $20,000, they would have laughed at you. They would probably still be laughing and have tears coming down their face. Anyway, continuing on to what this guy had to say, Moorhead says more institutional investors are entering the space, but the vast majority have yet to invest, which is one of the reasons he remains so bullish. He said in the early days, it was Wall Street or tech professionals investing their own money in our funds. So high net worth individuals, but very sophisticated about this industry. We now have 850 limited partners, which is just a crazy amount of LPs. In our previous days, we managed $1 billion and maybe 50 different investors. And now we have an order of magnitude more than that. 50 investors. Now they have 850. And this is just one company. Even some of the other stuff that I'm going to be reading through as we go further in the video, it's incredible. And I understand why on traditional media outlets, why they may not be talking about this. I mean, there was also another article that I decided not to have in this video because it's better for my brain not to have it. What's the name? Mnuchin. He was in the news yesterday as well, talking negatively about Bitcoin. He said that he expects that within the next 10 years, Bitcoin won't be even in the vocabulary of normal people anymore around the world, that it'll simply be, once again, the US dollar that'll be running the charge of the bulls. It'll be at the forefront of everything that people really care about. He said it's going to remain the US dollar, and there will be nothing stopping the US dollar, and people won't even be mentioning the name of Bitcoin. Insane. Like, I don't know where, but to be fair, what this usually means to me, especially when someone comes out so adamantly against something or they're constantly talking about it in the news, they probably don't be fooled. Governments, agencies, corporations, they all have price metrics similar to this. They actually hire companies exactly like this to be able to do the research as well for them. These people pretty much know exactly where Bitcoin is going to go, and it could be simply just a ploy for them to try and get other normal people out of the game, which is something that we've also spoken about before. This was a major topic of discussion during 2018. I'm pretty sure a lot of people who were here definitely remember we were talking about the shaking out of weak hands from the tree. It worked. If you scare enough people, you get enough people to leave. But what's interesting about right now is that they're trying kind of the same exact tactics or even things slightly similar, just scaring the heck out of people. But people are still buying into the cryptocurrency space, especially for people who've been here for a very long time, even haven't been here for a very long time. People are realizing where exactly this industry is going. Like, you can't have an overabundance of good news every single day talking about this company launching, this company doing this family doing this person's getting into this person invested $1 billion, and thinking, okay, well, crypto's probably going to die tomorrow. That doesn't make a lot of sense, especially if you are logical in your thinking and you see exactly all the money that's kind of floating around in this space. For those of you who have not already, this is not an advertisement, but listen to the Unchained or Unconfirmed. That's her other podcast by Laura Shin. It's very good. I mentioned someone else was talking with me in the comment section. She does make sure to note sometimes how anti certain coins she is. But I do like the people who she actually has on the show. Anyway, the point is, we have had other metrics like this before. There have been a couple of other people who have come out this year and have said that they expected or still expect Bitcoin to hit around $50,000 this year. Keeping in mind, once again, a couple of years ago, people thought, especially if you look at the old articles, I think it was Tom Lee, Novogratz, all the major names who were always in the news as far as like predictions and stuff like that. And they were all talking about that Bitcoin was probably going to hit a maximum of $7,000 to $8,000, maybe $8,500 in 2017. And look at where we went. I would not be shocked, not saying that it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if we end up hitting a $100,000 Bitcoin this year, having a major pullback during the first couple of months of 2020. And then as we get closer to that reward getting cut in half, kind of shooting back up all over again. Anyway, like I said, I like news like this. It's very fascinating. Even more so just as a, what's the word? Kind of something to look back on, because a lot of these companies have been completely correct on their assessments of where the price was going to go. They usually give lower numbers than they probably think that it's going to hit, and they usually Bitcoin's price ends up going above and beyond. Even because Bitcoin is only 10 years old, it becomes a very little difficult to be able to predict price movements typically for like traditional markets, we have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years of price action. So we can kind of usually see where trends are going to go, how human sentiment is, where this is moving, and so and so. And so what happens after this event kind of happens. And even for Bitcoin, for some reason, people have been noting before that Bitcoin's price movements don't make a lot of sense compared to traditional finance. Typically, especially if we have like a run up in price, bear markets will tend to last for a year, 2 years, maybe a little bit more, like very like long downtrends until things slowly start going sideways and then ticking back up, and we have these like longer movements. It takes Bitcoin like 1/4 the amount of time to kind of go through all of those trends, and this is why we kind of see the prices that we do now, and even more so the adoption that we have getting into the cryptocurrency space. Anyway, I find it fascinating, and we'll see. I mean, we'll definitely hear, if by the end of this year, if Bitcoin hits 43,000, we will definitely hear everyone talking about Pantera and their trend line indications as to where Bitcoin could be going. Next up, Venezuelans traded more bolivars for Bitcoin than ever before last week, but the statistics say more about fiat than cryptocurrency. Data from CoinDance, which tracks trading activity on peer-to-peer exchanges such as Local Bitcoins, Paxful, and BISC, confirmed the 7 days to the 20th of July were Venezuela's biggest on record. During that period, users of Local Bitcoins alone generated volumes of over 57 billion bolivars, beating the previous all-time record high of 49 billion, which appeared in the previous week. Here's the actual chart right here. For those who can't see it that well, I tried to zoom in a little bit more. Here's the actual chart. It's sort of kind of all going crazy. What is that? That is the 18th of August last year. And that was the beginning of this entire massive spike up that we kind of, or rather are actually seeing right now. As Cointelegraph reported, Venezuela's currency continues to suffer from runaway inflation, which estimates claim has reached 10 million%, leading citizens to resort to alternative means of storing value. The country's official alternative state-issued digital currency known as the Petro was declared a failure by the United States nonprofit during this month. So here's the actual chart going up right there. That's insane to see the amount of people, because I'm pretty sure, I'm certain actually, that people within Venezuela are restricted from buying cryptocurrencies and buying Bitcoin. I think usage is allowed as long as it goes through government channels. And what was the other thing? I think mining is also illegal as well. There were other documentaries I was watching, or like little snippets of news where people were talking about, had their faces completely covered. And they were talking about, yeah, I'm still mining. It's dangerous, but it feeds my family. So here's the other thing right here from the FDD. It says, Venezuela, a failure to launch provides lessons for others. I assume this has to do completely with the launch of their cryptocurrency, which has been a tremendous failure. We had news last year that apparently Venezuela was trying to get, I believe, Russia, Iran, and one other country to actually use their cryptocurrency to be able to buy petrol and stuff like that. I assume it didn't work out because their currency is garbage. And also, here's the other chart right here from Statista. It says, due to Venezuela currently battling hyperinflation, the average inflation rate in Venezuela amounted to around 493.6% in 2017 compared to the previous year. After that, there are only estimates to pinpoint inflation in the country as Venezuela's economy is collapsing. Last year, we had a metric that said the inflation rate was around 1.5 million%. Insane that you know that your currency is dying and you just continue to print more, as opposed to just, I would go on television and start like scooping it out and just burning a whole bunch of them and telling everyone, hey, it's going to get better, I promise. But it's terrible for the people living in that country. I think millions of people were forcibly, in order to feed their families, made to migrate to other countries to be able to. I think I had a friend who went to go visit in Venezuela. He said there are people on the street who are selling like hats and baskets like made of their currency. Like some of the bills are like 1 million bolivars and stuff like that, and you can it's nothing. It's completely insane. So it's great that people within the country are finding ways to get Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, but it has to be absolutely terrible living there right now. But yeah, let's move on. Next up, the New York State Department of Financial Services, or the NYDFS, The financial regulator for the state of New York is moving its in-house team supervising cryptocurrency businesses to a new division. In a statement on Tuesday, Linda Lacewell, the newly appointed superintendent, announced the Research and Innovation Division at the Department of Financial Services will track emerging financial technologies and be responsible for licensing and supervising virtual currencies. This will include licensing approvals made under the state's BIT license, a regulatory regime that governs firms buying, selling, or issuing cryptocurrencies to consumers in the state. The agency affirmed in a follow-up request for comment. This division will oversee the virtual currency licensing process and will encourage development in the area. Lacewell's predecessor, Mariati Vulo, opposed regulatory experimentation for non-banking financial firms. When leading the agency, making this Research and Innovation Division as a reprieve from the regulator's formerly heavy hand. So what this pretty much comes down to, without reading much further and talking about their quotes and stuff like that, it appears, for those of you who remember, especially if you've been in New York, you definitely remember there is something called the BIT license. And it pretty much, if you want to do anything within cryptocurrencies within the state of New York, you need to get a BIT license. Part of the issue is that it takes forever to get one. There are certain companies who I think applied 5 years ago and they just got it. It does not take that long to issue paperwork. So this seems to be something, hopefully, where they're trying to have a division completely for cryptocurrency startups, crypto exchanges, people looking to launch cryptocurrency, anything within the state of New York, that they'll be able to simply go to them, and hopefully this will be streamlined in a more quicker way. Like I said, it does not take years to be able to do so. We also had news last year that I think 20 or 30 companies had applied for a BIT license, and I think 6 or 7 were actually granted a BIT license, with the other one still waiting in the wings. So kind of hopeful. I mean, you can't really get much better than that when it comes to New York State and how long things have taken. Anyway, without really speaking much further on that, it's kind of interesting. Hopefully it actually ends up working out. Hopefully it doesn't take 5 years. It should really take no more than like 2 months. Like, have a room of 5 people look through paperwork. I'm pretty sure that the paperwork is definitely not 8,000 pages long. It's maybe like 80, 50, 40, 25 pages long. People have to sign some signatures. Come into our office at this time. Done. Bam. Please open up shop. Anyway, let's move on. The Senate Banking Committee will hold a hearing on regulatory frameworks for cryptocurrencies and blockchain next week. The committee said in a press release that it would hold an open session titled Examining Regulatory Frameworks for Digital Currencies and Blockchain on the 30th of July. Though it is unclear if this would be a fact-finding mission or if any specific pieces of legislation will be discussed, Circle CEO Jeremy Allaire, representing the Blockchain Association, Rebecca Nelson, a member of the Congressional Research Service specializing in international trade and finance, and Mersha Baradaran, a law professor at the University of California, Irvine School of Law, will testify as expert witnesses. The hearing will be live streamed. The Senate Banking Committee has held a number of hearings around the space, with the most recent taking place last week, focused on Facebook's Libra. So yet again, another thing that we're going to have to go through. I don't expect anything completely insane. I think they're just trying to find out a large amount of information. I was listening to something before, and they were talking about, I said it's very fascinating because you see all these hearings, they're happening all around the world. Usually the ones happening within the Senate or Congress within the United States kind of are the ones that make, the headline news. Many people tend to not care about maybe smaller countries who are also having similar discussions. But it comes down to the fact that lawmakers are trying to really understand the space. You can tell sometimes when they're actually having discussions with the people who are on the panel that they really probably don't know, or they're trying to make sure that they have specific information as to exactly how things are going to work, because they have a general understanding of what cryptocurrencies are. They are like maybe level 1 out of like 10 levels, and they're trying to really understand the level of regulation that they should place on the industry so that they can maintain some sort of control. But once again, the best part for all of us is the longer that they wait, the more innovation that actually happens behind the scenes in the cryptocurrency space. They can't stop Bitcoin. They cannot stop other decentralized currencies. And the main thing that they're going to be able to control from an outside looking in standpoint is going to be cryptocurrency exchanges, crypto startups, other coins that are going to be labeled or listed as, or are coming preemptively before the SEC to list themselves as securities. And I mean, if nothing else, it gives us a window into the minds of regulators to see what they think about the space. But yeah, 30th of July, another hearing, holding, whatever you kind of want to call it. I'm pretty sure we'll talk about it as well, should anything significant happen. If Steve Mnuchin is there again, I'm pretty sure there'll be a bunch of fireworks. Anyway, let's move on. To kind of finish things off, Bitcoin payments should be coming to Norway's low-cost airline known as Norwegian Air sometime this year after its co-founder set a date for opening their own cryptocurrency exchange. According to the local newspaper Dagens Næringsliv, I think I said that correct, the Kjos family intend to launch trading on their nascent NBX exchange in August. That's a couple of days away, swiftly expanding into neighboring countries. The publication says the Kjoses, who are already known to have purchased considerable amounts of Bitcoin, I'll get back to that in 1 second, will integrate cryptocurrency into Norwegian Air's payment options. NBX was already public knowledge, but the exact date and crypto payment plans represent a renewed commitment to the industry for the family. Bjorn Kjos, the father of multiple senior executives working in various affiliated corporations, is worth approximately 412 million euros. His son, Lars Ola Kjos, has invested a reported 400,000 euros in Bitcoin as well. I'm pretty sure it's a lot more than that. The only information that I could find, first of all, here's the actual article in Norwegian for those who can read it. Right here, you can kind of see the word Kjos, son, millionaire, and Bitcoin, and Cryptoboros, which is like a crypto bourse. So it's like a stock exchange type thing, like a crypto exchange. And here's another article that I found. It is dated the 25th of April, 2018, that was talking about the actual movement of this family getting into the cryptocurrency space. Once again, this was when countries were coming forward, screaming at the top of their lungs that they were going to be banning cryptocurrencies and everyone should get out. It was completely dangerous. Don't stay here. We had one of the richest families in the entire world who announced that they were going to be creating a cryptocurrency company, a cryptocurrency exchange, and that their son, I assume it's probably all of them, were buying up large amounts of Bitcoin. Very fascinating. We have discussions like this all the time, or rather, I talk about it sometimes. I hear about it a lot more behind the scenes. If you... that's a weird sentence. I was going to say, if you have any financial regulator friends, what's the word I'm looking for? Friends who like work with rich families. I don't know how else to really kind of say that. I've been hearing so much news about families buying large amounts of Bitcoin, large amounts of cryptocurrency, trying to make sure that they hedge their bets in some sort of way, just in case it does take off, but also a lot of like legacy families. What was the other one who we heard about a couple of weeks ago? The Rockefellers, who also were getting into the cryptocurrency space. You know exactly where the cryptocurrency space is going, regardless of any country talks about banning it, how much they dislike it. The nicest way of saying it is, regardless of which country you're in, rich people run the governments. Rich people pretty much control everything. Rich people control politicians. So it's fairly certain in my eyes that there's not going to be any Bitcoin ban in any major rich country, especially if you've heard of any really rich family getting into the cryptocurrency space, talking about that they're buying cryptocurrency, starting a cryptocurrency exchange, because all you have to do is throw money at people and they go, okay, well, shut up. Very fascinating. And I wonder just how many other families, there are so many rich and wealthy families in the world who are probably buying up huge amounts of cryptocurrencies. Remember last year as well, as prices were going down, we had billions of dollars who were buying over the counter. So one can only assume families around the world are still amassing large amounts of crypto. We have normal everyday families who are throwing a couple $100 into Bitcoin every single month. Just imagine the other families who are worth 2.5, 5 million. Maybe they're putting in 1,000 per month. Imagine the other families who are worth 100 million. It's very fascinating. You always have to kind of think a bit further than you are seeing right in front of you. There's a lot of money on this planet. There are a lot of families who make sure that they even put fractions of their money into the cryptocurrency space, or just into anything that has to do with something where they could make a lot more money. What was the other thing that we were just talking about? Completely lost it. Completely lost everything I was trying to say. Anyway, the point is, rich people are getting into crypto. understand where the space is going. Crypto is going to be a major thing. And without further ado, let's move on. To kind of finish things off, or rather, as always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters. Professor Wally from Gunbot University, Strange Radio Central, Bankroll Network, Master Ventures in Thailand, 242 to the World, Triple M and J, My Keto Kitchen, Assam M El Zofri, Adobo, Crypto and Beer Shipmate, Brady Niels, L Doug, Jared Schneider, Wise Night Owl, Crypto Joe, Mohair Maroney, Carl Birchenoff, singer-songwriter Mike Savitz, Rai Rai, Yasha Harari, Amy Starsheen, Jeffrey Ramsey, Clara T. Snowden, Crypto Artist, Cole D3D, Nicholas Runner with One Piece One Love, Setsuna, Nick Kanai, Richie Rich the Third, RF Dusty, Cody, Vlad, The Impaler, Paxis, Tom Sucks at Basketball, and Sam Skips, Leg Day, Jeremy the Photographer, Jim Gardner, Minting Coins, Arthur Yanko, Nick Mangialavori, Anthony Charles, and Mick Canick. Thank you all an insurmountable amount for your support at the moment. For those who are not looking at the screen, the cryptocurrency prices are green for the most part. Bitcoin is back above $10,000. Don't know if it's going to hold. We're seeing a very weird sideways trend. I would not be surprised at all if Bitcoin fell back to around 9,600 once again. Volatility is our friend in the cryptocurrency space. Yesterday, I think the charge, as it was being called, was being led by Litecoin and EOS yesterday. I think EOS was up, was the first coin in the green. I think Litecoin was up around 10% yesterday, somewhere around there. It's kind of fallen a little slight bit. At the moment, Ether is up by 6.71%. Anything else significant? Neo is up by almost 10%. Cool. Any other coins? Crypto chain is down. Quantum is up by 10%. Quantum hasn't been in the news. Maybe something behind the scenes actually took place. Raven coin is up. And that's just about it. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening. And yeah, I'll talk to you all soon. See you.